In 1967, as V8 muscle cars dominated American streets, a small Japanese automaker was about to release a car that would change the automotive landscape forever. This is the story of the Datsun 510, an unlikely hero that punched above its weight and helped establish Japanese cars in the West. Known as the Bluebird in Japan, the 510 was the Datsun's attempt to create an affordable yet sporty compact car for the masses. Chief designer Teruo Uchino drew inspiration from European sedans, particularly the BMW 1600. The result was a boxy yet handsome design with clean lines and excellent proportions. But the 510 wasn't just about looks. Under the skin, it featured advanced engineering for its time and price point. At its heart was Datsun's L-Series engine, an overhead cam inline-4 that was light, rev-happy, and easy to modify. In stock form, it produced 96 horsepower from 1.6 liters. Even more impressive was the suspension setup. While most economy cars used a solid rear axle, the 510 featured fully independent rear suspension with semi-trailing arms. Up front were McPherson struts. This sophisticated chassis gave the 510 handling that belied its humble origins. When it hit American shores for the 1968 model year, the 510 was an instant hit. Here was a car that offered European driving dynamics at Japanese prices. The base two-door started at just $1,996, about $15,000 in today's money. For that, buyers got disc brakes up front, reclining bucket seats, and build quality that embarrassed many domestic competitors. The 510 was offered in several body styles to suit different needs. The two-door sedan was the sportiest variant, while the four-door offered more practicality. There was even a wagon version for those who needed extra cargo space. All shared the same basic mechanical package that made the 510 so appealing. The two-door coupe is considered by many to be the best-looking version of the car. With its sleeker roofline and sportier proportions, these coupes are relatively rare, especially in good condition, and command a premium on the classic car market. The 510 wagon deserves special mention as well. While it shared the same basic underpinnings as the sedan and coupe, it used a solid rear axle instead of the independent setup. This made it slightly less sporty, but increased its load-carrying capacity. The wagon's practical nature made it popular with families and helped broaden the 510's appeal. And it wasn't long before enthusiasts realized the true potential of the Datsun 510 platform. The L16 engine responded incredibly well to modifications, and the balanced chassis could handle far more power than stock. Soon, 510s were showing up at autocrosses and road courses across America, often beating much more expensive machinery. The L16 was a marvel of engineering for its time. Its single overhead camshaft design was cutting edge for an affordable car in the late 1960s. The aluminum head helped keep weight down, while a cast iron block ensured durability. In stock form, it produced 96 horsepower at 6,000 revolutions per minute and 100 pound-feet of torque at 4,000 revolutions per minute. These numbers may seem modest by modern standards, but they were quite impressive for a 1.6-liter engine of the era. More importantly, the L16 had significant headroom for tuning. Simple modifications like a better carburetor, headers, and a cam swap could easily push output over 120 horsepower. For those seeking even more power, the larger 1.8 and 2.0-liter versions of the L-Series engine were popular swap candidates. And backing up the engine was a rugged 4-speed manual transmission. While not the last word in sophistication, it offered positive shifts and stood up well to abuse. The 510 was also available with a 3-speed automatic, but this was far less common and detracted from the car's sporty character. Braking was handled by front discs and rear drums. Again, impressive for an economy car of the time. The discs provided good stopping power with minimal fade, important for spirited driving. Some later performance models received discs all around for even better braking performance. Inside, the 510 offered a simple yet functional interior. The large greenhouse provided excellent visibility, while the upright seating position gave a commanding view of the road. The instrument panel was basic but legible, with a large speedometer flanked by auxiliary gauges. Higher trim levels added niceties like a tachometer and wood grain accents. One area where the 510 truly excelled was its balance. With a curb weight of around 2,000 pounds, it was significantly lighter than many of its contemporaries. This allowed it to make the most of its modest power output. The near-perfect 50/50th weight distribution further enhanced its handling prowess. But the ultimate expression of the 510's performance potential came in the form of the Brock Racing Enterprises (BRE) race cars. Run by former Shelby American designer Peter Brock, the BRE team campaigned 510s in the under 2.5-liter class of the SCCA Trans Am series. With ace driver John Morton behind the wheel, the little Datsuns took on and beat the likes of Alfa Romeo and BMW. The BRE 510s dominated the 1971 and 1972 seasons, winning back-to-back championships. These giant killing performances cemented the 510's reputation as a legitimate sports sedan and helped establish Datsun as a force to be reckoned with in American motorsport. The 510's success wasn't limited to the track. It also proved its mettle in grueling rally events around the world. A Datsun 1600 SSS, the high-performance version of the 510, won the brutal East African Safari Rally in 1970. This 3,000-mile event through Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania was considered one of the toughest tests of man and machine. The 510's victory proved its durability was as impressive as its performance. Now, back on the street, the 510 developed a devoted following among enthusiasts. Its combination of affordability, tunability, and fun-to-drive character made it the perfect platform for modification. Engine swaps became popular, with everything from turbocharged Nissan SR20s to Honda VTEC motors finding their way under 510 hoods. The aftermarket embraced the 510, offering a huge range of performance parts. Suspension upgrades, bigger brakes, and body kits allowed owners to personalize their cars to suit their tastes and driving styles. The 510 became a blank canvas for automotive expression, with no two builds quite the same. Production of the original 510 ended in 1973, but its legacy lived on. Subsequent Datsun and Nissan models attempted to recapture the 510's magic, but none quite managed to replicate its perfect balance of simplicity and sophistication. The 510 had set a high bar that proved difficult to clear. Now, let's talk about its global variants. In its home market of Japan, the car was sold as the Bluebird and came in a variety of trim levels. The hottest version was the 1600 SSS, which featured twin Hitachi carburetors and a high-compression engine good for 109 horsepower. In Australia, the 510 was also marketed as the Datsun 1600. It quickly gained a reputation as a giant killer in local touring car racing, often embarrassing much more powerful V8 sedans. The rugged nature of the 510 also made it popular for rallying in the demanding Australian outback. European markets received the 510 under various names, including the Datsun 1300, 1500, and 1600, depending on engine size. While it faced stiff competition from established brands like BMW and Alfa Romeo, the 510 carved out a niche for itself as a reliable and fun-to-drive alternative. And as the 1970s progressed, emissions regulations began to strangle performance across the industry. The 510 was not immune to this, with later models receiving detuned engines and added emissions equipment. However, its inherent goodness still shone through, and it remained a popular choice until the end of its production run. The 510's influence extended far beyond its own model run. It established Datsun and later Nissan as a serious player in the sports sedan market. Subsequent models like the 610, 710, and 810 all built on the 510's formula, albeit with mixed results. None quite captured the magic of the original, but they helped cement Nissan's reputation for building driver-focused cars. Even today, echoes of the 510 can be seen in Nissan's lineup. Cars like the Sentra SCR and various iterations of the Silvia 240SX carried on its spirit of affordable performance. More recently, the IDX concept car showed that Nissan hasn't forgotten its 510 heritage, even if it hasn't quite managed to recapture it in production form. Today, over 50 years after its introduction, the Datsun 510 remains a highly sought-after classic. Original examples in good condition can fetch surprising sums at auction, while modified cars continue to be prized by enthusiasts. The 510's timeless design has aged gracefully, looking just as good today as it did in the late 1960s.